My life was a series of checklists. I'm a high-rise window washer. It's a job that sounds like a death-defying thrill ride, but in reality, it's 99% routine. Check the anchor. Check the harness. Check the carabiners. Check the descent rig. You follow the list, you don't die. You don't get creative, you don't take shortcuts, and you never panic. My life on the ground was pretty much the same. Simple apartment, simple routine, zero drama. I loved the silence of being up there. 200 feet above the city, the noise of the traffic was just a dull, distant roar. It was just me, the glass, and the wind. It was predictable. It was safe. My quiet, predictable world came to a sudden, screeching halt on a Tuesday. I was working the south face of the new, ultramodern Kestrel Tower, a building that was all glass and sharp angles. I was about 30 floors up, just starting a new drop, when my descent rig jammed. It didn't slip. It didn't fail. It just froze. I was anchored, I was safe, but I was completely, totally stuck. I couldn't go up, and I couldn't go down. I was just hanging there, a human wind chime, 30 stories above the pavement. I tried not to panic. I went through my checklist. I tried the manual override. Nothing. I tried the backup release. Jammed. I got on my radio to my partner on the roof, but all I got was a burst of static. The high winds up here must have been scrambling the signal. I was alone. And I was stuck. After about 20 minutes of dangling, my professional calm was starting to crack. That's when I saw him. On the other side of the glass. He was in a big corner office that looked more like an art gallery than a workplace. He was standing in front of a massive, abstract painting, yelling into his phone. He was wearing an impeccably tailored suit, his dark hair was a mess, and he looked like he was about to throw his phone through the wall. He was all frantic energy, pacing back and forth, completely oblivious to the man hanging outside his window. I sighed. I had one option. I reached for the small, rubber-ended tool on my belt and knocked on the glass. He didn't hear me. He was too busy yelling. It's not a negotiation, it's a non-starter. Fix it. I knocked again, harder. Tap, tap, tap. He stopped mid-rant. He slowly turned his head, his eyes narrowing, like he was hearing a mosquito. He looked right at me and his jaw dropped. He literally stumbled back a step. I guess it's not every day you find a man floating outside your 30th floor window. I pointed at my radio, then made a call me gesture with my thumb and pinky. He just stared. I tried again. I pointed at my jammed rig. I shrugged. I pointed at my phone in my pocket. He was still just gawking. God, this guy is useless, I thought. I unclipped the laminated emergency card from my harness. It had our company's main office number on it. I held it up against the glass. He finally snapped out of it. He walked over to the window, so close I could see the fine lines of stress around his eyes. He pulled out his own phone, squinted at the card, and nodded. He put the phone to his ear. I watched him talk. He looked frustrated, pointing at me, then at the roof. Finally, he hung up and gave me a curt nod. Help was on the way. He stood there watching me. I was just hanging. It was awkward. I gave him a little, "What can you do?" shrug. He suddenly typed something on his phone and held it up to the glass. The font was huge. "Are you okay?" I nodded. I typed back on my own phone. "Rig is jammed. I'm safe. Just stuck." He typed again. They said 20 minutes. I sighed and typed back. "Great." He looked at me, then at his desk, then back at me. He looked like he didn't know what to do. He was trapped in there by social obligation, and I was trapped out here by gravity. He disappeared from view for a second, and came back with a yellow legal pad and a Sharpie. He wrote, in big block letters, "Sorry. This must suck." I couldn't help it. I laughed. I wrote on my phone, "You have no idea. My legs are asleep." He smiled. A real, genuine smile that completely changed his face. He wrote, "I'm Gabriel. I'm an architect. This is my building." I held up my phone. "I'm Sam. I'm the guy who cleans your building. Nice work. Lots of windows." He laughed at that. We stayed like that for the next 15 minutes, a completely silent, ridiculous conversation through a 1-inch pane of soundproof glass. He'd write, I'd type. He asked me how I got into this job. I told him I liked the quiet. He told me he was supposed to be in a meeting that he was now happily missing. He had a surprisingly goofy, self-deprecating sense of humor for a guy in a suit that probably cost more than my truck. I was in the middle of typing a response when I saw my partner's rig descend from the roof. Salvation. I gave Gabriel a little wave. He scribbled one last thing on the pad, and held it up as my partner reached me. Thanks for the distraction. Be safe, Sam. My partner got me unstuck, and I was back on the roof in 5 minutes. The rest of the day was just a normal day. But I couldn't get the image out of my head. A stressed-out architect in a glass tower, having a silent conversation with a window washer. A week later, I was back at the Kestrel Tower. I'd be lying if I said I didn't check the 30th floor corner office. It was empty. I felt a strange, sharp pang of disappointment. I just strapped in and got to work. I was on my last drop of the day, the sun turning the city a hazy gold, when I passed his window again. This time he was there. He wasn't on the phone. He was at his drafting table, totally absorbed, sketching on a huge piece of trace paper. I just kept going, not wanting to bother him. I was almost 2 floors below him when I heard a faint tap, tap, tap from above. I looked up. He was at the window, grinning, and knocking on the glass with his knuckles. I stopped my descent. He held up his legal pad. Your rig okay today? I gave him a thumbs up and typed on my phone. So far, so good. He smiled and wrote, I'm heading out. Want a coffee? On the ground? My heart did a stupid, jerky backflip. A guy in a corner office was asking me, the window washer, out for coffee. Aren't you afraid I'll show up in this? I typed, gesturing to my harness. He wrote, I'll wait. Lobby in 20? 20 minutes later, I walked into the massive marble lobby of the Kestrel Tower. I had changed out of my harness and into my street clothes, jeans and a hoodie, but I still felt like a fraud. Gabriel was waiting by the doors. Out of the suit and in a simple, well-worn sweater, he just looked like a normal guy. A really handsome, really tall normal guy. Hey, he said, his smile easy. I didn't know if you'd actually show up. Free coffee is free coffee, I shrugged. We went to a small cafe around the corner. I felt clumsy and out of place, but he was just easy. He wasn't the high-strung, stressed-out guy I'd first seen. He was funny and smart, and he asked me a million questions about my job. He was obsessed with the mechanics of it, the engineering. You're basically a vertical ballet dancer, he said. More like a vertical janitor, I countered. No, he said, his expression turning serious. I mean it. I sit in that office all day designing these static boxes. You're out there, in the air, interacting with them. You see the city in a way no one else does. You see the light change. You see the seasons. I'm actually jealous. No one had ever been jealous of my job. They were usually just horrified. It's just a job, man, I said, looking down at my coffee. It's not, he said softly. It's a perspective. We talked for 2 hours. We were from 2 different worlds, but we connected on a level that I couldn't quite explain. We were both quiet observers. He just did it from the inside, and I did it from the outside. He walked me back to my truck. So Sam the window washer, he said, leaning against the door. When's the next time you're cleaning my building? 2 weeks probably. That's too long, he said. He pulled out his phone. How about dinner? Friday? When you're not, dangling from a rope. That was the beginning. We had dinner. Then another. We fell into a rhythm that was all our own. I'd be working on his building, and I'd get to his floor, and he'd have a note on the window, bad meeting. Need a beer later? Or I'd hold up my phone. Roof is crazy windy today. Don't envy me. He was the best kept secret of my life. My world of silence and his world of high-stakes design. One night, I was at his apartment, a stunning minimalist place that was of course mostly glass. We were on his couch, after dinner, watching the city lights flicker to life below. It was the first time I'd ever stayed the night. I have a confession, he said, his voice quiet. He turned to look at me, his face serious in the twilight. The day you got stuck. My radio, it wasn't scrambled. I was just on the roof with your partner. He was on his lunch break. I just stared at him. What? I mean, your rig was definitely jammed. That was real. But I knew your partner was on a break. I told the office I couldn't reach him. I wanted a few more minutes. You left me hanging? I said, a slow smile spreading across my face. You're a jerk, Gabriel. I'm an architect, he said, his own smile mirroring mine. I was assessing the structural integrity of the situation. He moved closer, his hand coming up to cup my jaw. His touch was warm. I saw you out there, and you were so calm. So solid. My day was a total trash fire, and you were just there. In the middle of the sky. You were the quietest thing that had happened to me all year. I was panicking mostly, I confessed. You weren't, he whispered. You were perfect. He kissed me, and it was slow and deep, and it felt like finally, after all this time, I wasn't on the outside looking in. I woke up hours later, in the middle of the night, in his bed. The city was a carpet of light spread out before us, the glass walls making it feel like we were floating. He was fast asleep, his arms slung possessively over my waist. I lay there, for the first time in my life, not anchored by a rope. I was anchored by him. I was in his glass tower, and I had never felt safer.